begin recording today's session. And good afternoon again. My name is Julie Duffield from the California Comprehensive Center here at Wested. On behalf of the Secondary Literacy Partnership, I welcome you to today's webinar, Beyond the Test, ELA Performance Task on Smarter Balance Assessments and Implications for Classroom Instruction. We're very excited to have you all here and taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us. Again, if you're having any questions at this stage, logging in, eventhelp@wested.org, and we'll answer your questions via email. This series is sponsored by the Secondary Literacy Partnership. It is a partnership between all the parties that you see here on the screen, AXA, CDE, CTA, and the CC Regional Center at Wested. The Secondary Literacy Program has been around for a long time. It bridges the work of different partner organizations in sharing current research to practice on secondary literacy, 612. And one way we do this is to do webinars like this. Over the last 2 years, we have done professional exchanges via webinars, and we have also had presenters like the ones today who have presented at different conferences. So we welcome you to be with us as part of this series. And I would like my colleague Anu Avani to introduce our wonderful presenters today. So over to you, Anu.
Hey, thank you, Julie. Our colleague here at Wested, Rachel Lagunoff, currently develops and delivers professional development on the new California ELD standards, including the CDE's online ELD standards professional learning modules. She's also offered seminars on Smarter Balance Performance Tasks for ELA at California Teachers Association events. Rachel also served as a Smarter Balance Project Management Partner Liaison for the Transition to CCSS Work Group, and also conducted alignment studies on the relationship between previous state standards and the CCSS for ELA literacy. So welcome, Rachel. We're very happy to have you with us. We also have joining us Gabriela Orozco-Gonzalez. Gabriela has taught middle school and elementary school for 14 years. She has developed a Common Core blog as part of her work in the CTA leadership cohort, and we'll be posting that link into the chat. This year, she was also selected by the NEA to be a Smarter Balance Teacher Ambassador in California. So I'd like to turn that back over to Julie.
Thank you, and I think we've got a quick poll here. So if we could push out the poll, and thank you everybody for typing in your introductions as we begin today. We'll do the quick poll, and then Rachel, we're handing it over to you and Gabriela.
Great.
So the poll is on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. If you could let us know by clicking on which one is most appropriate. If you can't find the poll on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, just type it into the chat if you haven't already done so. So we're asking, what is your role? And I'm looking at the returns on that. We have many high school teachers. Lots have said other. So if you haven't answered it, please type in Director of Curriculum and Instruction. Thank you, Sue. We might need a little bit more time here. Coordinator, thank you. Curriculum, wow, we do have folks wearing many different hats today. Gabriela and Rachel on with us today. So instructional coach, homeschool teacher, thank you. National Geographic Learning Editor, so thank you so much. Lots of different folks, middle school, high school, and then folks wearing different curriculum hats. So thank you so much. We'll move forward here. And I'm passing you the ball, Rachel, so you can move the slides forward, and we'll continue.
Okay. So welcome, everybody. I'm really glad that there's so many people here and so many people from in different roles and different places in the state.
Anu, can you close the poll because I can't change the poll until you do that?
Yes, okay. It's about to process, but I can move the slide. Hang on.
So we'll move the slide forward for you. Keep going, Rachel.
Here we go. Okay, for now, all right, sorry. So for today, we're going to go through an agenda. It's a pretty packed agenda, so there may be some parts where we go through pretty quickly, and I can talk very fast. So keep typing in the chat if you have questions or you need something repeated. So we have 4 sections, and first we're going to get situated looking at where the ELA, the Smarter Balanced ELA performance tasks fit in both the Smarter Balanced assessment system and in the overall assessment system, in the assessment cycle. Then we're going to look at, also in the first section we're going to look at a classroom activity. Then in section 2, we're going to look at an actual task, a sample task, and go through it piece by piece, looking at all the parts and considering the implications for classroom instruction. And Gabriella is here today. I'm really glad she's joining us because she has a lot of experience working with students in the classroom and scaffolding students' ability to do performance tasks, and a lot of experience developing performance tasks, so she's also going to be contributing. In section 3, we'll look at evaluating performance tasks using rubrics, and then more information about designing performance tasks for use in the classroom with students. Then in section 4, we're going to go through some resources. We're going to go through, as I said before, we're going to go through this really quickly, present a lot of information, and we're not going to be able to present everything you're going to want to know about performance tasks. However, there are numerous resources and many, many places you can go to get more information, both about the Smarter Balanced performance tasks and about designing performance tasks for your own students. Okay, we can move, I can move my slides by myself now. If I remember how, okay. Okay, I wanted to also mention a couple things that always come up when we talk about performance tasks and about the Smarter Balanced performance tasks in particular is the Smarter Balanced test administration. It's very important, and a lot of people have some anxiety around it, but we will not be able to talk about that in this webinar today, and we will not be able to address the technology requirements, which are also very important, and a lot of people have questions about them. Know that there are resources for test administration through Smarter Balanced. There are lots of resources on administration and technology on the CDE website. So I encourage you to get more information if you still have questions about those 2 elements. Okay, so the first section we're going to be getting situated. This picture represents a feeling that you may have in the current situation where we're implementing new standards, new assessments are coming out, the assessments have new kinds of item types, and you may be feeling very, very busy and overwhelmed. So I'm hoping that this introduction will help give you some information about Smarter Balanced tasks and information about how to develop them and resources that you can use. So we're going to look at how the Smarter Balanced performance tasks fit in the assessment system, and then also look at a classroom activity, which is the first part of conducting a performance task.
Just a heads up, Rachel, we have, you wrote my message, thank you. We have someone from who's having an interpreter with us. They're asking if you could speak up a little loudly and a little slowly, so thank you.
Okay, I'll try to speak more slowly. Okay, so first we're going to look at where Smarter Balanced fits in the assessment cycle. So usually when people hear the word assessment, the first thing they think of is a test. But assessment is much more than a test. Assessment is looking at where students need to get to, what they need to know, and how they get there, and feedback along the way to see how far along they're moving. So if we think of that the assessment cycle as a whole system, and starting with the student and leading to the student being able to achieve on standards, assessment is happening at all times in the classroom and leading up to the annual summative assessment. So the annual summative assessment is where Smarter Balanced is. So that's what Smarter Balanced is. It's looking at what students know and can do at the end of an entire year of instruction. So we'll be looking at the Smarter Balanced performance task. We'll also be considering implications for the classroom. So here's where we start with the student and the teacher in the classroom together. And there's also assessment going on there. So minute by minute, daily and weekly. And then if there's a unit, like a project or a performance task at the end of a unit, that might also be happening in the classroom. And all of this is assessment. So the teacher is determining what the students can do, helping them learn more, setting up goals, and monitoring the students' progress along the way. Okay, so before we get into Smarter Balanced in general, I'm going to start talking about the Smarter Balanced assessment. I just wanted to know quickly who has taken the Smarter Balanced practice test. These are available on the Smarter Balanced website. The practice test is also available from the CDE website. So I'm just curious to know how many of you have actually taken a practice test. So go ahead and fill in the poll by checking the green check or the red X below. I'm not sure where that is on the side.
I just put my pointer there. The green check is on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And then, Rachel, I'll just ask you to clear it, or I can clear it for you. Of the 93 people on the call, 21 have said yes, and about 10 have said no, not yet. So if we'll give folks a little moment left to do that. But it looks like over 1/3 of the folks on this call have said yes. And if you go down to the bottom far right, you can hit the eraser and clear that poll.
Okay, and I'll clear the poll. Okay, that's good to know. So a lot of you have taken it, but a good number of you, did I clear it? Okay. Have not. So I will be providing information that may be familiar to you if you've taken the practice test, but for all of those of you who haven't, I'll be going through piece by piece what the actual performance tasks look like. Okay, so first, Smarter Balanced has identified 4 kinds of item types. And one of them, of course, is performance tasks, but they're also in the computer adaptive section of the test, as well as in the performance task section, selected response items. So these are more than just the typical multiple choice, one right answer that we've seen in the past. The selected response could be multiple choice, one correct answer. It could also be multiple correct answers. It could be matching. It could be a chart. So the item types are expanded in the Smarter Balanced test. There are also constructed response items where the students, as in a typical constructed response item, they will write their own answer. In this case, of course, they'll be typing it into a box on the computer. There are technology-enhanced items. And this is taking advantage of the technology by giving the test in the computer, so students can do things like highlight. There's also something called hot text, where they can highlight and unhighlight to mark a correct answer. They can create, in math, they can create graphs and things like that. So the technology actually allows us to do more than we could with the regular paper and pencil tests. Then, of course, we also have the performance tasks. And the performance tasks were designed to test a synthesis of skills. So rather than just test each skill individually, we can now look at what students can do in multiple areas, reading and research and writing all together. One thing I want to point out, even though there's what you're going to see, there's a lot of reading in the performance tasks, but the performance tasks actually do not assess reading comprehension. They assess the ability of students to gather evidence and determine what evidence or information supports what they're going to write. Okay, every performance task, so there's one performance task for ELA on the test and one for math. And for ELA, they will get one performance task with one writing purpose. And every performance task is structured in the same way. So the first part is the stimulus. In this case, for most of the items, the stimulus will be a series of readings. And they always have more than one. They can have 3 or 4 separate readings, different types of text that they'll read. Then there's a set of items for information processing. So these are items that ask the students about the sources they've just read, about the kind of evidence in the sources, and they're designed to somewhat scaffold the students' thinking before they start actually going into the product section. The product is an essay or a written product. For grades 3 through 5, the writing purposes are either narrative or informative or opinion. In grades 6 through 8 and grade 11, the writing purposes are explanatory and argumentative. And it might be possible that narrative could be integrated with those, but the main writing types are explanatory and argumentative. And each student will just get one performance task. Okay. Next, we are going to go actually into a sample classroom activity. And I'm going to explain what the classroom activity is in a minute. But before we start that, I just wanted to check if people had downloaded. There was a sample grade 8 classroom activity provided on the website to get into this webinar. So I just wanted to check how many people have downloaded the classroom activity so that you have a hard copy in front of you.
So if you could just hit the check on the bottom if you had a check to download that sample one that we sent out and posted on the website. We'll also show it on the screen, but it'd be great if you have it in front of you. So looking at the poll, Rachel, of the 96 people here, about 14 have, many are saying no, not yet. So we want to clear that poll. So it sounds like lots of folks, probably half did and half didn't. So.
Okay. So if you do have it, it might be a little easier to look at your hard copy as we go through the next activity. If you do not have it downloaded and you just want to look at the screen, I will be showing the classroom activity on the screen in a little while. So as you may know, if you have already been involved in the pilot or the field test, the classroom activity is an activity that is held in the classroom with the student's own teacher. And the teacher gets a script and materials, and the purpose of the classroom activity is to provide information on the context or the background information about the topic in the performance task. So the students and the teacher don't know yet which exact performance task the students will get, but this information provided in the classroom activity provides context. So as an example, one of the sample tests was about, now I can't remember what, service animals. And so what we don't want is students to open up their test and see pictures of different kinds of animals and start thinking, oh, you know, why is that person with a monkey and what's this horse doing there? Or to encounter vocabulary that they're not familiar with, such as service animal, and not knowing what that is. So what the classroom activity does is introduce the students to the concept of service animals and the key vocabulary around that. So when they get to the test, they're ready to look at the topic and ready to complete the task and won't be confused and will have the background information they need. So by doing the classroom activity, the students all get the same background information, so the test is equitable, and they also get key vocabulary they will need for the reading and writing portion. So, okay. So in a minute, I will show you a sample classroom activity from the practice test for grade 8. And as you look at it, look at the classroom activity and consider these following 2 questions. And you can write on your own on paper if you want to, or you can write into the chat as soon as you want to, what the implications are of the classroom activity. So think about what students need to know and be able to do to be successful during the classroom activity. And think about ways teachers can help prepare students so that they're used to these skills and strategies in the classroom before they get to the actual classroom activity itself. Okay, so if you have your hard copy, you can look at that and consider the questions. And then if you do not have a hard copy, I'm going to take you through the practice test classroom activity on screen, and I've highlighted some areas that might be helpful for you to focus on, and you won't be able to read every word, so please just skim and I'll take you through the classroom activity. Okay, so here's the first page, and I have highlighted the purpose and the learning goal. Okay, so that's the first page. That, again, just skim, so don't worry if you haven't read every word. And just pick up on what you think students need to know and be able to do, or what they need to be able to do in the classroom. So this is the facilitator's guide, so it describes what the teacher in the classroom should be doing with the students. what the teacher will say, what the students have to do. Okay. Again, keep skimming. I'm going to move on. Oh, no, this is the second page. Sorry. So, oh, no, there's another page. Sorry. I didn't highlight any. Oh, yes, I did. Okay. So, again, that goes through the facilitator giving the students group activity and then calling on students. Okay. Okay, so go ahead and think about what students need to know, what students need to be able to do, and how teachers can help prepare them. And go ahead and write any of your immediate reactions or further questions you have about the classroom activity in the chat. And then once you've done that, Gabrielle and I will respond to questions. So one question, yes, the activity takes place prior to the day of the test. So you can determine with your testing schedule at your school which day you would do the classroom activity depending on which day you're offering the performance task. And it's recommended to do it within a few days of taking the performance task.
Rachel, if you want to put it back up, we have also posted the questions in the chat for folks if you want to put the documents.
Okay, we can do that, or we have the, well, we just have this slide. But if people want to see the documents, I'll go back to them.
Someone says, making connections to the real work, collaborate, write, and use graphic organizers. Students should know the time frame for the small group work.
Yes, excellent comments. And Gabriella, feel free to jump in here.
I have been. I even typed it into the chat.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay.
Lauren says the purpose for the edited activity.
For the so students need to know the purpose as well. Yes. Okay. Yes, so one person said it seems like the responses of the students will impact how well they do on the task. And that is part of the purpose of this activity, is to make sure that they do have background information and key vocabulary to get into the task. So you can conduct group activities the way you normally would in your classroom. So if you're giving, you're helping out the English learner students with additional scaffolding or additional types of vocabulary, maybe they also need to know the key academic vocabulary as well as the domain-specific vocabulary. You can, all of those things are also, strategies that you want to do in the classroom with the students. So good point. Okay, yes, practice all year on content-based discussions. Okay, collaborate, right. Students need to be able to engage in collaborative discussions, and that's also in the Common Core, as you know. Yes, groupings of students is very important. The teacher, oh, that's Gabriella, thanks. Very good point. Okay, are we ready to move on?
There is a question, how long before the test are we able to look at this with our students? Scaffolding could take a bit of time, someone asked.
Yes, that has to do with administration, and I don't know exactly when you get the materials. I believe it's in advance, so that's something you're going to have to check with your, in your district or with CDE to determine how much lead time you have. I do believe you do have some that you can see the classroom activity in advance of doing it in your classroom.
Ellen says that they got theirs about a week out, so thanks.
A week out, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yes, and feel free, if any of you know the answer and I don't, because I'm actually not in the schools, feel free to post your answer to someone else. Okay. All right, great. There's a lot of great comments here, so we're going to move on. So in the next section, we're going to look at a task, the actual task, in more detail. We're going to go piece by piece. The students, of course, will be able to go back and forth and look at their sources, look at their questions, start their writing. But we're just going to go step by step through the task so you can see all the parts, and then we'll comment on them. And then Gabriella is also going to provide her perspective. So quick poll, once again, just to double check, if you've downloaded the practice test and scoring guide, it's probably about the same number of people who had downloaded the classroom activity. Unless any of you ran off and went and downloaded it in the meantime, we might have some more people.
Folks have said yes, but I think a lot of folks have said not yet. So
not yet. Okay, I'll just move on. I'll assume that we'll do the same thing. We'll show you the test on the screen. Okay, so first we're going to look at the student directions and just scan the sources. There are multiple sources, so we're not going to read them all in detail, but I just want you to get an idea of what's in the sources and how they're formatted. And then consider that in what the implications are for classroom instruction. So if you have your hard copy, just read the student directions and scan the sources. And if you have the grade 8 practice test and scoring guide, that's on pages 2 through 13. And then again, we're going to consider the same kinds of questions. So as we are looking through this part of the test, think about what the students need to be able to do and how the teachers can help them learn how to do these very specific things that they'll need to be able to do. Okay, so now I will move on to the practice test, again, page by page, and I've highlighted some key areas to pay attention to. So this is from the practice test scoring guide. These are a resource for you. These scoring guides are available for every single grade. The practice test and scoring guide with the classroom activity on the Smarter Balance website. So if you want to download these and take more time to look at them, they're all there. And there's a link later where you can go to get these. Okay, so it starts with student directions, and the students will see these on the screen very much like you're seeing these now, scrolling down on the left side of the screen. So it starts with directions, the name of the task. And I'm going to let you skim through. I'll try to scroll a little bit slowly. So here's the description of the task. And then some directions here. And the students note that the students can take notes on the screen or on scratch paper. And then they're going to write, for this one is an argumentative essay. Okay, next page. These are the research questions. Or actually information about the research questions. We don't see them yet. And then here's the first source. So notice they're numbered, source 1. And the sources are of different kinds, mostly informational text, but different kinds like articles or as you see here, it's a newspaper story. And also notice that key vocabulary is footnoted. There's an accommodation for English learners where other vocabulary that they may have difficulty with, if they click on it, they will get a glossary that's in 10 different languages. And there are other accommodations that students would have with their IEP, such as being able to hear something read aloud, et cetera. Okay,
and folks, on the right-hand side is the blue bar, so you can scroll down. If you can't see what's on Rachel's, you can just scroll down the blue bar to see the full document.
There's a question about can students use pencil and paper, and that's, again, an administration question that I can't answer, so please do check with your district or the CDE about that. Okay, so that's the source. We're still going through the source. I'm just going to, again, we're skimming it so you don't have to read all the information. I'm not going to make you actually take the test this time. Okay, this is at the end of the first source, and you see here is the glossary, the footnoted glossary for the words that were footnoted in the test. And then we go to source 2. And I'm just going to skim through source 2 pretty quickly. Just highlighting again the footnotes, and there's references with this one. Then we go to source 3. And source 4. This is for grade 8, so there are 4 sources. And that's typical for the secondary. And references. Okay, that's as far as we're going. Okay, so so quickly write down any initial reactions you have to what students need to be able to do and how teachers can help them learn to do this. Just anything immediately thought of what the students need to be able to do. Yes, great summary there, Janice. Yes, read, annotate academic vocabulary, right, understand footnotes and glossary, take notes, etc. Okay. Integrate knowledge from multiple sources, great. So I picked in advance, before we did this, I came up with a sample response. So students need to be able to read multiple sources on the same topic and take notes or highlight information and ideas. So it looks like a number of you did think of this as one of the things the students need to know and be able to do. I think I won't do the quick poll. It looks like most of you got, you're all picking up on similar things. I have to analyze, annotate, read, multiple sources, etc. So I chose this particular thing because students may not right now be used to doing this in the classroom. It's something they're going to need to be able to do to be successful in the performance task. And now I'm going to hand this over to Gabriella, who's going to give some ideas about how she would prepare students to be able to do this. And do I just—
Thanks, Rachel.
Yes. Okay. Whoop. Okay. You have the ball now, Gabriella.
Great. Okay, so this is an actual passage that I did with my students. I took this from the Cesar Chavez Foundation, and we interacted with the text. So what I like to do is the first time the students get exposed to the text, I actually do a read aloud. I have a population of about 98% English language learners, and this could be a difficult piece. So what we do is we break up the text. We have, I think, 7 short paragraphs here, and we just read over this piece of text. Then what I do is actually use sheet protectors, and I slide this piece of text into one of the sheet protectors and give them those dry erase markers or the Visivis markers that you used to use for the overhead. And I actually teach them how to highlight, how to look for keywords, which words that will help them find meaning within the passage. Will also help them just do what I call wreck the text. So just take a paragraph apart, maybe use some of the sentences and rewrite them in our own words. And this will also teach students to know how to look at informational writing, know how to take the writing apart, take facts down, and also know how to rewrite those facts into their own words. So one of the things that we like to do is we'll look at one paragraph. We'll maybe do a quick write. If you can see all these little arrows here, and let me see if I can use my little pointer here. See these little arrows here? What the student did, for instance, was we looked at a word like migrated, and this student wrote move to place. So what they were doing is just constructing meaning of words that they found difficult. I actually don't like to give my students a list ahead of time of academic vocabulary. I like them to choose which words they want to construct meaning and take the time looking at those words, because sometimes it varies between the classroom of which words they find really help them find meaning within the passage. We also develop some text-dependent questions together, and we'll discuss the passage. Using those text-dependent questions, we'll highlight, and then we'll take them out of the sheet protector, and they actually do it on their own. So this is a passage already out of the sheet protector, and they highlight it, they wrote their notes, and then they're going to use this as one of their resources when they start writing their informational piece. So following, what we also like to do is look at several resources. Now, sometimes I think that secondary teachers move away from the read-alouds, and I think it's so important to do an interactive read-aloud. This actual book, I think, is about a 4th to 5th grade level book. But the purpose was to actually do it as a read aloud, stop, ask questions, and also give them a different form of text. So giving them multiple text resources to gather information for them to write their informational writing piece. I also like to use biography.com. It's actually one of my favorite places because sometimes the attention span can be short, and they have, let's say, a whole hour on a historical figure broken down into maybe 2.5 minutes or so, and we can watch maybe one segment each day for a week as we do our classroom interaction piece. So we're able to go back, take notes, look at one short clip that maybe was a very poignant or important kind of highlight of Cesar Chavez's life, and take notes, think about it, and go back and do maybe a collaborative piece where students actually discuss not only the notations that were done in the closed reading, but also the notations done with biography.com video clips, or any video clip for that matter. I also, even though I didn't note it here, love to use audio clips, which is another form of stimuli. Recently, I was doing personal narrative and downloaded an NPR audio clip on Patricia Polacco's Blessing Cup. And we discussed her thoughts behind personal narrative and what she thought thus far of the book. And so just getting that audio clip of the actual author discussing their writing pieces and really understanding their author's purpose was really essential for the students to grasp what the message was. And not only that, but promote the personal narrative that we wanted for them to get inspired to write. So it was just a great way for them to be exposed to different multiple text sources. Another thing that I like to use, and I saw that some of the participants wrote in the chat, which was great, is I love graphic organizers, but not just simple graphic organizers where they just do a bubble map. But as you can see, let me use my pointer so I can point out, there's numbers on each of these bubbles. So what students did is they first did the close reading, and then they kind of mapped out their facts and ideas, and then they actually sat in a collaborative group. They sat together with a few other students, and I do like to do mixed abilities because I have such a high population of English language learners, and I have models in every group, and they decide, which do you think should be my first paragraph? Well, this is the first one. Cesar Chavez was born in Arizona. There he lived in a farm his family owned. When Cesar was 10, his family home was taken away. So he decided this should be a good introduction. And then here, second, following third, fourth, and so forth. So these are just ideas of how to use a graphic organizer that would just look like a simple bubble map, but also to use as facts and pacing out your writing and deciding which items are of priority at the beginning of your essay and then towards the end. That would be a good closing. And this is a good opportunity to discuss with students what an argumentative opinion explanatory piece looks like, and what would be a good introduction, a good topic sentence, and what would be a good closing. So what I call the hamburger, right? All the stuff in between. Okay, so Rachel, this is the rest for you.
Yes, thank you, Gabriella. Thank you very much. So now we're going to flip back and look at the next part of the performance task. So as I mentioned before, there are information processing items. So next we're going to see what those items look like, and then the student directions for the actual writing task itself. So if you have the hard copy, it's pages 14 through 21. And again, we're going to be thinking about the same questions. What do students need to be able to do, and how can teachers help them learn how to do this? And again, I'll start going through the test, and as you start getting ideas, you could start responding in the chat. So we are going to move on to and we'll look at the scoring information again later, but that's highlighted as well here because we're going to come back to it. But look at what they have to do in the item. So, I'm scrolling a little fast. So 2695 is the number of the item. So it starts out source for, describes, etc. So these are the directions for the item. Okay, and then the rest of this is scoring information. So I'm just going to go to the next page. And this is an exemplar. So that, remember, this is a scoring guide. So it's actually really helpful for teachers to have these available. You can see how the items are going to be scored. Here's the second question.
So Rachel, you want folks getting and looking at this?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yes. Yeah, so just look through and look at what the item is asking of students. So this one is asking them to justify their answer and support it with 2 pieces of information. Right, this part. So these were the constructed response items, so they'll have a place to write their answer here. Okay, sorry, I have to scroll through the whole thing. Okay, this is one of the types of selected response items I was talking about that isn't a plain old multiple choice, but a chart where they check boxes. So this is this item. It has them actually click on boxes to answer the question. Okay, so one person noted already that some of the instructions and what the students have to do seem a little bit complex for middle school, and notice that this was a grade 8 item. So again, the practice tests are available online, and you can go in, and students could also take these tests and practice answering these kind of questions that may not be familiar to them. So those are all available online now. And that's the rubric. So, and I think I went, okay. Then this is the directions for the actual writing task. And someone earlier had noticed that students need to know their purpose and audience, and you'll note that that's provided here for them, the audience and the purpose. Okay, I'm going to move ahead. And again, I came up with a sample answer that some of you have probably already thought of. So students, one of the main things students need to be able to do is select and cite relevant information to support an idea or a claim. So it's not enough that they just write down their ideas. They have to say where what evidence supports their ideas. They might have to summarize someone else's ideas and cite, say where they got that from. So again, some of you have already noticed this. So I think rather than doing the poll, I will just move on. And just to give a little response to that, I did find a resource, and this was, we're going to show all the resources later, but this is an example of one of the resources that is available. So to help students understand how to cite evidence and summarize evidence, I found this resource in achievethecore.com. It has lots of lessons for all grade levels, and I particularly liked this template because it scaffolds the student's ability to paraphrase, to summarize, to provide quotes, to provide citation information. And as you can see, this is a sample of what a student could have done. They can do pretty sophisticated things. This is a 6th grade task, and it was actually based on a basal reader. So the task that the students are doing is very complex, but because of the way that the template's set up, the students can understand what they need to do to paraphrase, to quote, and cite a page number to answer the questions that they're going to have to answer in their writing. It was achievethecore.org. And it's and it'll be in the resources at the end too, so don't worry if you didn't get that. Okay, so just an example of some of the kinds of resources and ideas that are out there for the very complex things students are going to be able to need to know how to do on these performance tasks. So I believe, I just want to check in with Julia how we're doing on time, how much time we have to have some more discussion and reflection.
Yeah, I think we should just pause. We have a moment or two here. We have the resources as in the handout. So, Gabriella, did you see some comments coming out? Someone wanted a reference. Someone said, "Test, is this going to everyone?" Someone asked. Any questions or comments as we pause here?
I saw that they wanted the reference. I saw that someone also said Achieve the Core. The references, the resources I provided were from the Cesar Chavez Foundation. The CDE has actually a great unit. If you just go to the CDE website, there's an entire unit for middle schoolers on Cesar Chavez that can easily be adapted for high school because a lot of the resources there, the level of passages scale up. So I know that you can use them for close readings or introduction to that. And the other source that I used was biography.com. They have short video clips that you can use. I mentioned also NPR. There is a lot of audio clips that I've used for authors. Most recently, the one for Patricia Polacco, the author of Blessing Cup, The Blessing Cup.
Right. Now we'll ask, thank you, we'll ask folks our presenters to add to the resource list. I know Gabriella has a great blog that has all of these on, and we will attach them to the site where you signed up for today's presentation. And you can also put any additional ones, please, in the chat. We want this to be a two-way communication, so if you're using good resources and sites that help support this work, please type them in and we'll put it together as a long list and put it on the site. But at the moment, I'm wondering if there's any questions or other comments or sharing resources. Did you see the Kristen's, Gabriella, or Rachel's question about the language vocab component?
Writing rubric.
I'm sorry?
Kristen writes, language vocab component that you included in
we'll be looking at rubrics next, and there is a convention section of that, but those specific standards, I believe, are now only being tested in the computer adaptive portion. If I'm understanding your question correctly, Kristen.
Well, thanks everyone. Just keep the questions and the suggestions rolling. I think we're ready to move on then, Rachel and Gabriella.
Okay. I will move on, and then I'm going to do just go through the rubrics really quickly, and then Gabriella's going to come back and give you even more ideas about designing performance tasks in the classroom. So first we're going to look again really quickly at the rubrics. You saw some of them already for the information processing items. I'll just go through those quickly again. And then you'll also be able to see the rubrics for the full write. And you won't be able to see those in detail, so I recommend if you want to look at those more closely, you can go ahead and download the practice test that's attached to the website for this webinar, and they're also available on the Smarter Balanced website. So let me make sure. Okay, so let me go back to the test, and we're going to go back to the rubrics. So you'll see for each of these, there's a DOK noted. Let me see if it's here. I think that was the first one. Okay. Sorry to flip back and forth. Okay, so this is the first one, DOK4. And then these are the so the rubric to get, these are 2 points. To get the full 2 points, they have to provide the 2 pieces of evidence and explain how each example supports the idea. Then for the next one, you'll see it's DOK4 again. And for to get the full 2 points, they have to have an evidence-based explanation, etc. Sorry, the text got a little messed up here when we format.
Rachel, can you?
Okay, yes. And here's the DOK3, so filling in the chart is DOK3, and...
Rachel, can you speak up a little louder, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry, okay. Got to get my headset probably moved. For this one, it's only 1 point, so they have to get all 4 cells completed correctly for this response. Okay, oh, the rubrics are sideways. So again, I urge you to download these yourself to look at them in more detail. So the first one addresses organization and purpose, and it's a 4-point rubric. So if you want to turn your head and look at this really quickly, you can. So to get 4 points, the response has a clear and effective organizational structure, creating a sense of unity and completeness. The organization is fully sustained between and within paragraphs. The response is consistently and purposefully focused. So that's the organization and purpose part of the rubric. Then there's another part, which is the evidence and elaboration. So it provides thorough and convincing, this is the 4-point, elaboration of the support or evidence for the claim and arguments, including reasoned, in-depth analysis and the effective use of source material. The response clearly and effectively develops ideas using precise language. And then there is a 2-point rubric for conventions, just overall conventions. Okay. So again, so you saw that the items, it may have been hard to see some of those, sorry about that. But if you have some immediate ideas or responses about what kinds of skills students need to demonstrate based on the rubrics, feel free to start putting those in the chat. And then I just
and I've some people
yes.
who are on 16 have said yes to this, that they are familiar with the DOK and the blooms. So
okay,
thank you everyone for marking that yes poll.
Great. Okay. So I'm glad to know some people are familiar with this. And for everybody, Gabriella is now going to look at what DOK is and what it means for what students need to be able to do, both on the performance tasks and in the classroom. So I'll hand it over to Gabriella.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, so what is DOK? Well, it's the scales of cognitive demand. When I first started this work and started as a performance task writer for Smarter Balance, I took some time really understanding and making it, pretty much creating a spreadsheet where I looked at both Bloom's and DOK to see where I needed the complexity of these questions to be. And I found myself spending a lot of time here in the 3 and in the 4, because that's where the product of the task will be. So when they actually start developing research projects or developing their essay, they're going to not only develop, but they're going to use concepts to solve, they're going to draw conclusions, they're going to hypothesize, critique, and then apply those concepts. They're going to make a connection to the text and develop their own personal narrative. So they're going to design a research project around the explanation of the research they're going to do. So I really like this wheel because it's when I am doing the planning, I'm able to clearly see the key words that are needed for each level. And looking at the next slide, you'll see level 3 and level 4 are to support ideas with details, examples, use voice that is appropriate to the purpose and the audience. So just really looking and analyzing text, that would be 4th level, synthesizing. And how do we get there? Well, I definitely spend a lot of time at the beginning with 1 and 2 DOK levels. I definitely spend time scaffolding it for them and doing basic, what I call on-the-surface questions at the beginning, and then this is just to introduce the topic, and then we definitely dive into what I call below the surface, and that's a little bit of reciprocal teaching for if any of you out there are familiar with those strategies. But we definitely go deeper and spend a lot more time in the level 3 and 4 for the students to really understand looking at multiple sources and analyzing that evidence and spending time really looking throughout all the sources that you provided through the different stimuli and taking all the concepts that needed to be learned and then constructing an essay based on that. So we're going to our quick poll. Do you currently work with a team to design curriculum and assessments? And I think this part is very essential, and it has been for me personally in the classroom. I started this work, actually, the blog that I even started was because we needed a forum to collect all these resources. So if you ever go out to my blog and visit, it's all just pretty much the collection. I call it my personal filing cabinet of all the resources that are out there. And I sit with my team, which we call it the Common Core Cafe as a K through 12th grade, and we vertically and horizontally align units of study to also include performance tasks and to include a summative assessment for the end of each unit. So we have these little formative assessments that we check throughout that are part of the tasks. But I could not do this work unless I actually had a design team where we sat together, we looked at assessments, and that we saw the same rubric. I noticed one of the questions earlier in the chat was there's a rubric that goes from 6th to 11th grade, and I'm looking particularly for 8th grade. And what I suggest is that you look at your standards and that you see where the student can do. So where is the final product? What do you think the big idea is and the ending result of each standard? And then construct a rubric based on that. And I know a lot of school districts have an amazing work out there already. I've put up some rubrics on my blog that I think are good. And I have a lot of examples of performance tests that different school districts or county of eds have put together, not only in California, but across the nation. So our quick write is, how do you place your or your team's experience in developing curriculum-embedded performance tests for assessment? And we'll take a moment to answer any questions or so I'll spend some time discussing what that looks like in my school site and my district. And this is some of the work that I did for the California Teachers Association, and I currently present nationally for the NEA also as a teacher leader. So looking at curriculum development planning teams, really it's a professional learning community. And what we do is we sit together and we collaborate. This is an actual picture of us prioritizing standards. We sat together and we said, okay, K through 12th grade as a district, we're going to develop these units of study, and it's going to take a lot of partnerships from different school sites to do this work. So what we did is we we spoke to the superintendent of curriculum and instruction and said, we need some time to construct these units. We need a few teacher leaders. Let's discuss how we can really make this professional learning community a priority for student achievement. And I spearheaded a lot of that work only because I am an assessment writer for Smarter Balance, but I'm also at the highest performing school in my district, and a lot of the teachers that I work with sit in a professional learning community. We sit across grade levels. We collaborate on lessons, unit of study planning. We do lesson studies, which is this right here. And I emphasize it because some of us are unsure of what a lesson in Common Core looks like and what a strategy looks like in every classroom. And a closed reading was one of those high kind of priority strategies that we really wanted to ensure that we understood. So we actually developed a lesson study team from different school sites that different grade level teachers were interested in seeing the strategy not only in 5th grade, but also in 8th grade and in high school, and it was actually for science. So we did a common strand, and we thought, okay, we want to do literacy in science, and we want some strategies. And we went out, and we had a lot of support from the administration and from the support staff to cover our class for maybe half a day and go out and see some of these lessons, which was great. We also planned performance-based assessments together so that it was cohesive. And I see it says, can you explain what it means to prioritize standards? Well, it doesn't mean that we only give those standards a priority. It just means that they're focused for that, let's say, trimester. So what we did is we said, okay, so at the beginning of the year, we're going to make sure that we have these foundational skills and that students are not only, they can do one basic strategy like main idea or moral or theme. And we definitely followed that all the prioritized supporting standards. The rest of the standards should support or to, but we did not ignore the other standards. We just gave them priority. We focused on them. So that was a great question because I get it off. It is to prioritize, and what does it mean to focus? And it's pretty much the same thing. It doesn't mean that we are ignoring the other standards. It just means that we are focusing on that unit, and that's going to be our priority, that unit that students walk away from. So in Common Core planning and implementation, we examined the standards, we prioritized, and we definitely made sure that we were parallel to the pacing overviews of assessment. So we consulted with the district and we said, okay, what are the assessments that are going to be rolled out? And the first one was on personal narrative. And we wanted to make sure that the units of study were prioritized and planned so that students were successful. I also saw earlier about, and I typed into the chat about the word justify and several other things that might be difficult language for students, and it is difficult. And one of the things that I definitely discuss with my colleagues and they discuss with me is that we moved away from kid-friendly standards. We made sure that they were exposed to the language of the standard because they needed to classify, justify, or to write an argumentative essay. They needed to know what those words were. And constant exposure for the students provides them a more successful opportunity for them to master those standards. We also went through the unit overviews and unit plans, and we created the assessments. I actually have a sample of one of my units, an engaging scenario, several tasks on my blog, all for you to see and take a look and get an idea of what we're creating as a Common Core cafe in the sense, and a language arts cadre at our district. So this is just a good opportunity for you to take a peek. Okay, so moving on, engaging scenarios. I don't know how familiar you are with engaging scenarios, but scenarios are a great way to make tasks more engaging. So they'll make it what I call kind of think back to how you were Mission Impossible and you would open the briefcase and there would be a mission for you. That's what I think of when I see engaging scenarios. We want students to become engaged with what their task is. So usually I'll write something like, you are an editor for the school newspaper and your task will be to write a letter to your audience and let them know about the injustice or civil rights movement that is going on. So you want to definitely make that connection to text and connection to world. So you want the students to understand that whatever they're writing will make an impact in the future. So learners must read with an intent to a particular situation. And I got this, and I believe it's from Wiggins, and it's GRASP is a tool used to design engaging scenarios. I have a few planning templates if you're interested on my blog also about what is the goal in the scenario, what is the role, who is the audience, what is the situation, and what is the performance challenge, and definitely knowing that you're going to be judged by the standards. In the past, I think that we were moving towards having a textbook-based classroom, and I think with Common Core, the move away, and with this new performance task is that the center of the classroom is standards-based classroom, and then why my school has always been so successful is always thinking of the classroom as standards-based versus textbook-based, which is a great resource, but it's exactly that. Now you have many opportunities to introduce different resources from all over, and especially great stimuli when it comes to video and audio. So thinking of these graphs as a tool when you start engaging your students, think of the goal, think of the role, and I think most importantly, think of the situation. And obviously, when you are planning these performance tasks, to always keep the standard in mind. So I'm going to go a little bit over my performance task planner. I hope that you were able to download it, and if not, it's I think that I know provided the link to you in previously to download all the sources. I also just put it on there right now. So if you haven't been able to download it, I just put it there again. And this planner that I developed was to help you do the selecting and setting up of an English language arts task. And I gave you some guiding questions in each section. I just want to highlight maybe some parts. For instance, here, let me put my arrow. What are your expectations for students as they work and complete this task? Think of the tools they're going to use. One of the things that Rachel discussed was the groupings. That's very important. I think it's key that you group your students essentially so that they're working smart and that they're not seeking friends, but that you are actually putting them in mixed ability groups so that they can have a successful opportunity to discuss and to collaborate and to have that meaningful talk that we're looking for, especially for our ELLs. If you're giving them how will they report, are we providing them with a rubric? Are we giving them an oral presentation rubric for this? Also, how will the students introduce the activity, and how will you introduce it so that we provide access to all? So are you going to use any kind of strategies from universal design learning to meet the needs of all our students and their cognitive demands? And take some time to kind of look through these. I know because of the interest of our webinar, we have limited time to go over it, but I'll go over page 2 briefly. Supporting students' exploration of the task. As students work independently in small groups, what will be the focus? What will you be assessing? Focus on the students' thinking and their key ideas of the task. Are you assessing the students' understanding of their key ideas? Are you monitoring what you're looking for? Is it the main idea that you're looking for or moral or things? So it's just a way for you to not only plan it out, but also I think opportunities for you to verbally write some of these things out. Sometimes what we needed to do this was also because of the lesson study that we started doing at our school site, and district-wide, we wanted to think of advanced student thinking and their understanding. We also are very interested in making sure that the frustrated student is accommodated. that we have the early finishers, which is really our advanced or high achieving students. Have we scaffolded that, and are we thinking of extensions? Because if you do, as the students finish their tasks, they're going to ask, now what? And we want the task to be evolving and engaging, and for them to continue to find forums of how to pursue more information. And also describing the task. So how will they extend the task so they provide additional challenge? And I saw from Tori, it says, could you use this for just ELA tasks or but other subject areas? Absolutely. We use this for science, and we use this for social studies. And there's one that I wrote specifically just for math. And if you go to my blog, just go under performance task, or just search on my blog, performance task planner for math, and I have one just for math. So you definitely can go, and I have some guiding questions. When I was writing performance tasks for mathematics for Smarter Balance, I just finished the work this summer. I changed some of it around to accommodate some of this work. So it's performance task planner for math. And the last part, which is sharing and discussing the task. One of the big components of Common Core is that our students are constantly engaged, that they're speaking and listening and collaborating, and I always use this word, that they're engaged in meaningful talk, so that they're not just discussing a topic, but that they're diving deeper into it, and that they're doing their shared discussions are about the task, and that they're able to articulate their key ideas of what they learned, that they're debating, they're questioning their friends, and sometimes I give them, I sample it. I love using Socratic seminars during this time, so I do plan. Usually this is like, what is the teacher doing? I monitor the Socratic seminar. I discuss how I do an inner and outer circle for them to have debates or to have discussions, or for them to have the outer circle just to listen in onto the discussions of the inner circle and maybe just take notes. If I use a lot of AVID strategies like Cornell notes, and I like having them write down their discussions and give feedback. Graphic organizers are a big cornerstone in my classroom, and it's also a way to ensure that the students have a product in hand where they're jotting down ideas, and maybe those organizers allow opportunities for them to get feedback. And I have some examples of that on my blog, so you can go back and review. And I also have some examples on universal design learning. Most recently, I blogged about English language learners and having access for all. So I hope you take a time to look through the last component, and which is what will you see or hear, and let you know that all students in the class understand the topic and they're intended to, that was intended to learn. So, and that's an idea, that's an opportunity for you to include the evaluation, the rubric, and what should a proficient task look like. Okay, so I think this is the last part of my presentation.
And you have a couple more slides, Gabriella.
Oh, do I? I am trying to click and I am not able to.
Let's go.
Sorry.
I'll go back to the PowerPoint for you. Is that what you want, Gabriella?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'll point it to that. And you just go up where it says performance and click on that.
Performance task is
performance task, and I'll put up the next slide.
Okay, so maybe that's what was happening, right? I was trying to click on the next slide. I said, oh, I'm all out. Do I click up here? I'm sorry.
You go up to the tab that says performance in the gray bar.
Voila. Okay. I said, where did my slides go? Okay, so timing matters. So greater scaffolding to provide at the beginning of the task. I definitely spend a lot of time. Currently, I think we're on our 4th task this year, and at the beginning of the year, I give them small tasks that only include, usually my engaging scenarios have about 4 tasks, but at the beginning of the year I start off with 2, and then a short they're little small formative assessments to see if checking for understanding, but then they get more complex. And so I scaffold and increase the level of complexity. And now that we're towards the end of October, they definitely have four tasks before the actual summative assessment of each unit. So timing does matter. My advice to you is that you need to make time for planning. I completely believe in professional learning communities to finding allies at your school site who want to plan with you and follow up with coaching. I think it's incredibly important. I think as a new teacher, that was a key to having a successful teaching career. And now with the new change of the Common Core standards, this coaching with fellow colleagues and thinking, okay, let's start up a lesson study. And if you're interested in lesson study, I do have quite a bit of resources just on that, so you can just maybe search lesson study on my blog, and you can see how we've set one up. I have a colleague who set one up for our California Teachers Association. She's in Malibu, and she does, Malibu actually spearheaded a lot of this work. Santa Monica Unified also has a lot of resources on just lesson study. And patience and understanding, right? I wrote it down because sometimes when we start this new process and we have a new endeavor of looking at new standards and we want to make sure that we're conscientious that change is difficult for a lot of people, and being patient is the. Okay, so Rachel, I think it's for you now.
Okay. So now we're just going to go through some resources. We've mentioned some of them already, and now we have the links to them, as well as some additional resources. So the first one I've mentioned already, and I'll mention it again, is the practice test. So you and all your students can actually go in and practice the test in the real test environment online, so I highly recommend doing that. Then another resource is the California ELA ELD framework. It's the new curriculum framework that combines information about developing curriculum. It includes instructional strategies, and it's designed for both English language arts and ELD and how those can be taught in tandem. There is a whole chapter of the framework on assessment, Chapter 8. The graphic I showed you earlier, the assessment cycle is in there, and there are lots of other great graphics. There are scenarios of assessment in the classroom. So I highly recommend downloading the framework. It's very large, so I recommend looking at the Chapter 8 on assessment, looking at the introduction, and then start to go through some grade level chapters. There's really an amazing amount of information and resources and ideas in there. Then achieve the core, so that one scaffolding for student citation that I showed was from this website. It has many other templates, ideas, lessons for all grade levels, all aligned to the Common Core. So I highly recommend that, and it's searchable. There's also the Literacy Design Collaborative, and what they've done is put together a lot of mini tasks. So again, helping to scaffold students to be able to do these complex performance tasks, and taking subtasks, or what they call mini tasks, breaking down the kinds of skills they have to do. So that's another great resource. Understanding Language is a website on research and provides also resources on developing lessons, including project-based units with a focus on English language learners. So I highly recommend that website as well to get more ideas and background on the particular issues that English language learners face when engaging in these complex performance tasks. Okay, the next slide is back to Gabriella to describe her resources.
Okay, so I put Better Lesson because I've really found some really great lessons. I do like the teaching channel, and I didn't include it only because Better Lesson actually has lesson plans that you can follow, plus video, and sometimes they have the teacher explaining some of the tasks and lessons in there. So I thought that was for really all content areas. Even though I wrote math and ELA, they actually started a whole science component also that you can see how you can integrate literacy really across all content areas. I put my blog because it has tons of resources on Common Core, and they're all K through 12th grade. Sometimes if you go into the Performance Test tab, just scroll down to get to your grade level, and you can find tons of resources there too. And the resources not just in California, but across the nation. Like I said, I've really spent some time archiving some of these resources. I'm also an NEA online community facilitator for the GPS network. And so what it is pretty much, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a free resource for all of us, all teachers across the entire United States. It's the largest professional learning community in the nation. And what I love about it is that each content area teacher is an expert in that field. You can actually pose a discussion question on, I need some help planning my performance task. I saw that one of the teachers up there said, I don't have anyone to plan with. Well, you can plan online with some of these teachers. I'm actually the facilitator for the 3rd grade Common Core group, but if you click on this link, it will actually take you directly to my online community, and you can see some of the discussion threads that I have. They're actually K through about 6th grade, and you can gather those resources. They pretty much are parallel to what I have on my blog, but I have a lot more things on documentation area and resources, just like on authors, purpose, study, poems. So go and check it out, maybe find your grade level. There's a Common Core group for all the way to 12th grade, or ELA, math, social studies, different content areas. I really think it's a great resource for all of us.
So, just a quick question.
Go ahead.
These resources, Gabriella, they're applicable to high school resources as well. I know that StudySync is one that they use for high school, looking at it. Do you have any specific ones for high school?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, if you go to my blog and then you go under the tasks, you just go to your grade level. And I have it all the way to 12th grade. And And the one that I had before that, the GPS network, actually has like a discussion group in every single, I think there's about 170 groups, and there's one in every single content area in every single grade. And like I've met most of them actually across the nation, and they're experts in their field. For instance, I'm an expert in Common Core and a performance test writer, so I do the 3rd grade, but and that's just a group assigned to me. But most teachers actually teach that grade level and facilitate it and write up discussions all the way to actually college level. So there's definitely a great way to find resources, especially if you're looking for reading passages or stimuli. There's something for you there, and it's free.
Thank you so much. Everyone's saying thank you for underlining that. Appreciate it. So we have 6 minutes here. We want to get your feedback on today's event. So please, Anu's just posted the URL to where we'll archive today's webinar and post these related resources that popped up in the chat. Rachel, do you want some final words here as we wind down? And thank everyone. Thank you and Gabriella for taking time to be here, and thank our presenters. We have a quick final thought for you in the chat there about one thing that you've heard today, learned today, or being confirmed today about the ELA performance task. As you are developing curriculum-based performance tasks, please let us know. We'd love to hear that thought in the chat now. And ask our presenters if you have any final thoughts here as people respond. Thank you. About LDC. Folks, any final thoughts? And
yes,
we'll ask Rachel.
Yeah, again, we went through this very quickly, and I hope all the resources will be helpful for you. And the resources that I presented on the first slide, the Achieve the Core and Literacy Design Collaborative, somebody noted, and Understanding Language are all for secondary. So it may take some sorting, but you can find them. And I hope that this was helpful for you to at least get some more information about the performance house. I know there were some questions unanswered, especially about administration. So do seek out the answers to those. And I hope that this was helpful for you in working with your students on performance tasks in the classroom.
Thank you so much. And Gabriella, final thoughts and comments as folks share back to us and we wrap up today's presentation?
Just that I'm just like you in the classroom, and some of the times I'm always constantly looking for reading passages, short media clips. I saw that, I believe it Stephanie gave us one on PBS. Yes, great short video clips. I love to introduce new stimuli for students, especially in all learning modalities, that we have a kinesthetic component, visual, auditory. So always have that in mind when you're planning some of these performance tasks, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. And there's the contact information for these wonderful presenters today. It's on the screen. Again, all of this information is on our website. We invite you on November 12th to one we're having on special needs students in the California Common Core State Standards. And again, we appreciate all the wonderful work that you're doing on behalf of our students. Next steps, please give us your feedback on the survey. We'll push it out. The webinar archive will be posted where the related resources are on the Schools Moving Up Secondary Literacy Partnership component, and the archive information will be there. We also have a channel in Vimeo of past webinars that you can look at, and we will just thank you. We'll push out the survey and wish you well in all that you do. We'll post the dates for upcoming webinars. Please, if you came today, you will probably get an announcement. We'll put you into our mailing list. So here's the next set of webinars that we're doing on the screen. And if you join today and email us, we will let you send you out a notice of reminder email. Again, thank you so much for being here. Any final thoughts that you see in the chat, ladies, that you want to respond to as we push out the survey?
I think I'm interested in that special needs webinar, so maybe I'll join you guys.
Good, yes, Mary. As we say, we really use the back chat and the channel chat to learn with and from one another. So thank you, everyone, for participating in that today. Anu, I will ask you to the survey now.
I also want to thank all the participants for contributing. There were some great ideas in there.
Definitely. It takes a village, as they say, and I really love these ideas of this ongoing professional learning communities that if you don't have one at your school site, you can tap into these resources. So thank you so much. The survey is there. Just give us your feedback, and again, thank you for all your contributions. Have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you at the next event on November 12th. Please rejoin us and keep sharing and visit the archive. And schoolsmovingup.wested.org, you'll see a list of the upcoming events as well. Please stay, I'll stay in the webinar interface to fill out the survey, so then we'll complete it. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Gabriella. And we appreciate, again, our participants for being here and all the great work you do. Take care. We're officially ending today's webinar. Thanks, everybody. Thank you again, Gabriella, and thank you so much, Rachel.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Take care. Give us your feedback.